It's almost time to go racing once more here in Portimao for, this time, the North American Championship within Lamborghini Super Trofeo. The sixth event brings the American teams to Europe as part of the Lamborghini Grand Finals weekend. Yesterday qualifying, today racing, tomorrow and Sunday the World Final Tournament, where it is the shootout between the Europeans and the Americans. Today, though, there are those regional championships to be decided. This circuit, just under 5 kilometres long, 9 right, 6 left-handed corners, and it's a drier circuit for the first North American race than it was, or is, for the first European race. Quite a lot of overnight rain made it really slippery, and tyre choice, very important indeed going into the first European race. Well, it's still a bit damp offline, but it's demonstrably better now than it was for the European race earlier on. Pole position to the Finnish driver, Patrick Kujala, who is a very successful Lamborghini racer. He is twice a champion within the European Series, and he's also had a World Final win and class wins in Lamborghinis in events like the Spa 24 Hours, and he shares with Eduardo Piscopo. They've only had one win this year in the US Racetronics entry, which is a surprise given their ability and their pace, but he's certainly a man to watch as you look there at the Piscopo Koala entry. Ready to go. Patrick Kujala will start, and then it's going to be Eduardo Piscopo to do the second stint, and they are on pole position with lining up alongside Nelson Piquet. Yes, that one, the former Grand Prix driver who has found a happy home for himself in Lamborghini Super Trofeo this year. David Addison trackside, Marietta Evans down on the grid, and Nelson Piquet lining up on the outside of the front row, and he is definitely somebody in with the chance of a race win, and that makes him somebody, Marietta, I think we should hear from before we go racing.
And Nelson Piquet actually already knows what it takes to take a victory in the Super Trofeo Championship. Nelson, today, what will it take to transform this front row into a victory?
Well, I just need to pass one car. No, it's the track's a little bit damp, so just need to take it easy, not do any mistakes, because obviously the car is going to be a bit slippery in the first few laps, but all is good. Car's working well. Team did a great job this week, so thank you everybody at ANSA. And no, just clean forward. I have the dry part of the track over here and the start, so hopefully get a bit of an advantage in this, and we have to be the quickest, and then we can win the race.
Thank you. Good luck.
So Nelson Piquet Jr., whose father, of course, was a triple Formula One world champion, and Nelson Jr. was the South American Formula 3 champion in 2002. He's had a very long career, really. You can't think of him as still a young gun, but he's been around a long time. He was British Formula 3 champion in 03. He was Formula E champion in 2014, 2015. Between which he'd won races for Brazil in A1GP. He'd had his time in Formula One, of course, as part of Renault, with that rather controversial Singapore Grand Prix result, which soured relations between him and Flavio Briatore, to say the least. He's raced in the World Endurance Championship, in Global Rallycross, in Brazilian stock cars, so massively experienced, and turning his attention to Super Trofeo this year. Now, the grid has got 1 or 2 gaps upon it, just looking down. Missing, by the look of it, is the car of Wesley Slimp, number 109. There are 1 or 2 cars being pushed into place, but I think Wesley Slimp, who's had a Lamborghini Cup win this year for TPC Racing with Tyler Hoffman, that car I can't see currently on its grid berth, so keep an eye to where that should be and whether it can get to the grid. Let's go back to the grid. John Duberts and Bryson Liu in with a chance of winning in Pro-Am. They're with Marietta.
Let's hear now from another contender in the Pro-Am in this championship. John, you have an advantage of being in front of your rivals, but Sebastian is just behind you. How are you preparing for this battle?
Hey, sorry, I didn't hear your question. The radio was going. What was that one more time?
How are you preparing for this battle? You arrived leading, but your rival is just behind you.
Yeah, so our biggest rival on our team here is behind us. Great batch of drivers. We know they're going to bring their A game. Big thing for us is going to be surviving. We do have a good points lead, but that doesn't mean we're not here to win. We're going to do everything in our power to keep this thing up front, but we're going to keep it on the track as best we can.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
So there, ready to go, is John Duberts, who has been a very busy GT racer over the years, from GT4 style cars as well as Lamborghini Super Trofeo. 6 wins in Pro-Am they've had this year. Now, looking down into that grid, more gaps seem to be there. So, a field getting ready but got a couple of cars missing from the inside. Where does that take us to? About the sixth row of the grid, with Claude Signoretti and possibly Damonocchi, and also another one that might be missing, being Shehan Chandrasoma. I'll have to keep an eye in due course as to see just whether everybody's got out of the pits before the pit lane closed. Nelson Piquet's good to go, and also ready to go. Nico Reger and David Starb. 3 AM wins have gone their way, and Marietta is back on the grid.
David, you arrive here leading the AM class. Very important race for you. How much do you know this racetrack before this weekend?
Not at all, other than watching some videos on YouTube. That's all we had going into it. And we've had fairly limited practice. We had an incident yesterday that limited our track time, but with the amount of prep that we did beforehand, we feel super confident going into today. Car felt great in qualifying, and we're looking forward to going fast today.
That's the attitude. Good luck.
Thank you.
It's always really good to have the American drivers over here, because for virtually all of them, it's a completely new circuit. They've got to learn as well as fight for a championship. It's always a real test of them, and they get faster and faster as the weekend goes on. David Starb for the Precision Performance Motorsports team will get better again going into tomorrow's World Final. Better again, of course, going into the second race today. So the grid starting to be cleared. And one of the drivers, Loris Spinelli, has already done one race today. He's already been out on track once, so he's got an idea of how the car should behave, and indeed what the track conditions are going to be like. Certainly still a little bit greasy, as the rather dramatic klaxon sounds, and that is another minute ticked off as the teams now have to start to leave the grid, at the very back of which is a rebuilt car, number 114, which is Slade Stewart, in the so-called Sparkle Farts car, because the unicorn livery chosen by his daughter is a charismatic one, to say the very least, but the back of it doesn't look as it should, because it, as you'll see when we get to the car in the race, had a big accident yesterday, and a lot of work has had to be done to rebuild it overnight. Now, just keep an eye to the grid, because there are cars missing, as I say, and Charlie Martin, I think, possibly is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. No, Charlie Martin might be missing. Alex Au possibly missing. And then there is a car that is absent. Now, we found Wesley Slimp, but go forward 3 rows. 1, 2, 3. Michael Manella, possibly number 104. Not there. So there are some gaps. Those cars, one hopes, will join in from the pit lane, assuming that they are able. It's, of course, sometimes the case that teams miss the pit lane closing time and don't get to the grid, but we'll find out and double-check who does take the start, which is not far away as you look at another very rapid car, that of Luke Barkley. Is there one missing on the 3rd row as well on the inside? It looks as though, conceivably, Eduardo Liberati, number 127, is not there either. 146 is, which means that we have John Dubetz and Bryson Liu. You heard from John Dubetz a little while ago, looking to notch up the championship within Pro-Am. Already champions in Pro, Danny Formal and Kyle Marcelli, but we've got a battle on for second place there, as engines now do fire up. As far as Pro-Am is concerned, it's Bryson Liu and John Dubetz fighting with Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carazzo, with Ashton Harrison and Tom Long outsiders, but mathematically still in with a shout. Then in AM, it is David Starb and Nico Reger against Shehan Chandrasoma, and in the Lamborghini Cup, that's absolutely wide open. Slade Stewart is ahead, but starting last on the grid. John Hirschberg and Ophir Levy are second, but only 2 points ahead of Charlie Martin and Jason Keats behind. So it is a slightly holy grid, as you can see, but in a moment the cars are going to be released onto the formation lap, because there's the 15-second board. Now, the first race for the Europeans had the theory of an extra formation lap, which wasn't adhered to, so it had to be red flagged and start again, but I'm not aware that there's going to be a second formation lap. I've not seen anything on the screen as a message to confirm that, so we assume it's just going to be a conventional one rolling start lap and then into battle they will go. This championship then that has taken the teams from Laguna Seca to NOLA to Watkins Glen to Road America to the Virginia International Raceway. You can see there is a line of cars in the pit lane all ready to go. So the cars on the warming up lap with Patrick Cuéllar and Nelson Piquet then starting at the front. Patrick Cuéllar knows these cars inside out. He's been racing Lamborghinis for quite a few seasons now. Then on the second row of the grid, you've got Loris Spinelli lining up against the pro champion, Danny Formal. So confirmation, Patrick Cuéllar and Nelson Piquet starting on row 1. The US Racetronics and Ansa Motorsports cars respectively. The second row of the grid, Loris Spinelli starting, and it will be Danny Formal, this year's pro champion, alongside this year's European pro champion. Really interesting battle in store there. On the third row of the grid, well, would have been Edoardo Liberati, but that car absent. But you do have Luke Barkley sharing with the very rapid Richard Antinucci. And then on the fourth row of the grid, John Dubetz will line up alongside the car of Jason O'Brien. Then you've got, starting on the fifth row of the grid, in number 147, the Precision Performance Motorsports car of Sebastian Caruso, and Billy Johnson, very experienced sports car racer alongside, ahead of Aidan Yoda, and then Ashton Harrison in what's meant to be her last weekend in Super Trofeo. But she's had a really good career in these cars, getting better and better all the time and more successful. David Staab shares the next row of the grid with the man that's second in the AMP contest. That's the top two in the championship together, therefore, Shehan Chandrasoma. Next on the grid, Alex Au, the driver who, again, I think he's missing, but the Hong Kong driver hopefully will start. As you see the Sparkle Farts car I was talking about earlier. Alongside Alex Au is Claude Senhoretti, ahead of Charlie Martin and Damon Ockey. Then Randy Solari and Michael Manella on the 10th row of the grid, ahead of Fred Roberts and then Tom Tate. There's John Hirschberg on the 12th row of the grid, lining up alongside Wesley Slim with Tiger Tari and Alan Grossberg ahead of Slade Stewart, the Lamborghini Cup Championship leader, 3 times a winner with that rather rebuilt car, starting at the rear of the field. So, as I say, there are at least 3 that are going to start from the pit lane, possibly even as much as 4, but the order of which they're going to be released will try and unravel, because if you're at the head of that queue, you've got a slightly better chance of latching onto the tail of the traffic quickly. The very Italian Tricolore car on the second row of the grid, that of Loris Spinelli, one to watch when the race gets underway, as the cars now make their way up on a drying road through turn 15. The Galp right-hander, the road starts to climb. This 4.6 kilometre long circuit, a lot of undulation in it, and for many of them, it's the first time they've raced here. Loris Spinelli, having already done a 50-minute race this morning, has circuit knowledge greater than anybody else. He comes up towards the line then, staring at the back of Patrick Cuéllar's car as the lights on red are about to go green to get the first North American Championship race underway. A slow start made by Piquet and a very good start made by Cuéllar as they make the run down now towards turn 1. So it's Cuéllar just ahead of Loris Spinelli. Piquet drops down to third as the cars now dive down towards the first corner. Spinelli goes right round the outside. There's contact. Spinelli spins. Around he goes. Everybody else manages to get through the melee, but Loris Spinelli spins and then 2 more go missing. Oh, drama from the first couple of corners. So that's going to shuffle the order massively as the cars now accelerate their way up towards the first sector timing point. And out of all of that, Patrick Cuéllar, I think, has just about managed to get away clear of anybody else as the cars, yes, come down towards turn 5. So Cuéllar it is, trying to make good his escape, but as Piquet managed to find a way through, he has. Piquet leads the way then, Cuéllar second, and up into third from the 5th row, Billy Johnson. Spinelli is in 4th after his spin, and then in 5th place it's Jason O'Brien as the cars now then, Jordan O'Brien as the cars work their way now up through turn 7 for the first time there. In 171 is Billy Johnson after that very, very good getaway. And so the cars now make the run uphill over the brow towards turn 7. And and one that is missing completely is Michael Manella. So Liberati, Al and Charlie Martin have all joined in from the pits, but Michael Manella has not got going as the rest of the field come through. So those that were in strife from the start included Danny Formal, and he has spun way down the order after that drama at the first corner, as now trying to fight back on the inside is Spinelli, who tackled the first stint of the first race on the wrong tyres, which made life difficult, and then a spin after that brush coming through turn one makes life tough here as well. Kuyler is ahead of him, but Piquet survives all the drama to lead at the end of that one then, so it wasn't a great start, but he kept out of trouble, and Nelson Piquet leads ahead of Patrick Kuyler. Loris Spinelli goes through third, fourth is Billy Johnson, fifth is Jordan O'Brien in the car that he shares with Ronat Apatu, and then in sixth place is another of the PPM cars, that of Sebastian Carrozzo. So, from the grid therefore, what happened to Danny Formal? He is down in eighth place, and Eduardo Liberati, after his pit lane start, making progress, and there more mayhem breaks out as around goes John Dubet and also Aidan Yoder. Now that's very bad news for John Dubet in 146, because don't forget he came into this as the Pro-Am Championship leader, and the car is stranded down at turn one. He's trying to get going, but there's no gap in the traffic, and there with the tyre cut look, limping to the pit lane is Aidan Yoder, the car that he shared with Jordan Missig, who was impressive at Misano in World Final weekend last year. Right, away then gets John Dubet, gets back in the race, and that's already under investigation just to see what may or may not be deemed to be a guilty party out of all of that. Now here's a replay of it. John Dubet's on the inside. On the outside line, Aidan Yoder, who turns in, bang, bodywork is ripped. Both cars spin, but the impact is enough to put a tyre down on the car of Aidan Yoder and badly delay, therefore, John Dubet. And how close to disaster was Shehan Chandrasoma, who was able to get through the gap. He survived all of that, but it was close. So, 50 minutes they get, rather than the reduced 48 because of a false start for the Europeans. We're on lap number 2 at the moment, and there is the race leading car, that of Nelson Piquet, ahead of Loris Spinelli, who has got past Patrick Kuyler now. So Spinelli up into that second place, Kuyler third, as the cars make the run up towards the timing line. Billy Johnson running in fourth place, the next man to watch. But now that Spinelli is into second, with all of the experience he's got at Lamborghini racing and of this circuit, let's see what he can do about the ex-Grand Prix racer ahead of him. 1.3 seconds is the margin. You could argue that given the career that Nelson Piquet has had and all the different things he's raced, he ought to be able to walk away from the opposition in this, but Loris Spinelli has got other ideas for Lamborghini Palm Beach. Then he chases after Piquet. We've got the team's championship up for grabs as well. It is close between Precision Performance Motorsports and Wayne Taylor Racing, and Spinelli goes through. The margin 1.3 seconds then as the cars hit turn 5. There's the fight for third. Billy Johnson closing up onto the back of the man that was on pole position, the Finn Patrick Kuyler. In 5th place then it is Jordan O'Brien, and in 6th place currently is the Sebastian Carrozzo car that he shares with Brian Ortiz, and they've had a couple of Pro-Am wins this year. Jordan O'Brien there, number 199, looking a bit lonely at the moment in 5th place, but he's leading his class. 199 is currently heading the Am battle, and so way up the order is Jordan O'Brien, looking good. Pro-Am currently, you've got to go quite a long way down to find a leader of that, and it is the Sebastian Carrozzo car in 6th place, as with his puncture limping down the pit lane comes Aidan Yoder. So more than anything, I know his chance of a result will have gone, but you might get points if you finish in class, and also there's more mileage to gain as well out of all of this as the leaders come up towards the line. So Nelson Piquet still leads the way. Loris Spinelli hunting him down. The margin as they break the beam is down to 0.8 of a second, so it's game on this, and Loris Spinelli is certainly closing on the race leader as they head into turn 1. So you go right, right, right. That's the first element. Then you go right again, and then the turn 3 La Gauche hairpin, which tightens and loops you round. And look at the way the gap has come down to, what, 2 lengths between the top 2 there. Piquet ahead, but only just. And if these two get themselves together and start squabbling, that's going to bring into the mix Patrick Kuyler, I reckon, who is there in that 3rd place. So Kuyler having an opportunity maybe to benefit as Spinelli closes right up, under braking into turn 5. Couldn't quite get his nose up the inside there. But now the pressure is on Nelson Piquet, no question about it. Uphill over the brow they come into turn 7. So there is Spinelli in the Taurino Racing by D Motorsports car. And Nelson Piquet feeling the pressure now, the Answer Motorsports entry. Remember though, Piquet goes solo, so he will continue at this pace race long, whereas Spinelli has a co-driver and the pace of that car will be affected accordingly. He's also, Loris Spinelli, being warned about track limits as they come now out of turn 11, drop downhill to the outside line goes Spinelli. Brave stuff, right round the outside. Has he got the race lead? Yes, he has. Brilliant move all the way around the outside of Piquet, who comes back at him on the inside. Spinelli will have the inside line though now, going up through turn 14. The line comes to him and Loris Spinelli goes through, now secures the position. Great racing between the pair of them, and after all of that, Loris Spinelli coming down towards turn 15 is the race leader. He had to work hard for that, but it has worked out for him. So, new race leader, Loris Spinelli, after a spin at the first corner, leads the way, goes through ahead of Nelson Piquet, and then Patrick Cuéllar is in third place, and Cuéllar lapping quicker as well compared to Piquet, just as Spinelli was to catch him, so Cuéllar is behind. Then fourth, Billy Johnson. In fifth place now is the leading AM, that's Jordan O'Brien, and sixth, the leading Pro-Am, and that is the hard-charging Sebastian Carrozzo. Leaders go through then. Billy Johnson chipping away at closing on Cuéllar. Cuéllar going after this man, Nelson Piquet. There's a pit window, don't forget, between 20 and 30 minutes. And if you're on your own, it's 97 seconds. If you've got a co-driver, it's 94, just to balance things out between those that are able to stay in the cars and know exactly what the car and the track feels like. There, going through in number 130 is Nelson Piquet. But now I fear he's going to drop away from Loris Spinelli, who has done the fastest lap of the race. And that might well drop into the clutches of Cuéllar, the Brazilian driver. Piquet. Johnson is still there in fourth place. There he is. Billy Johnson for TPC Racing, which has come into the championship this year. And Billy himself, who of course was part of the Ganassi Ford GT World Endurance Le Mans program for a time, has raced in single-seaters in America, but largely Grand Am, NASCAR, IMSA, GT4 in the UK. Even he had a go at Silverstone in the Multimatic Ford Mustang. He's raced in the ALMS and, as I say, in the WEC. And already we've got Lapri, one or two of the delayed cars going a lap down, as the margin between Piquet and Cuéllar comes down a little. More track limit warnings coming the way now of Aidan Yoda, and a big lose there, and that off the road is the aforementioned Aidan Yoda. He's already had a pit stop for a puncture, and now he's had a spin and as well and truly exceeded track limits there. As you can see, all the rubber junked to one side of the racetrack, but back into the race goes Aidan Yoda in a race to forget for the 19-year-old. That's coming out of the last corner, so the pit lane beckons for him. Whether that car picked up more than just a puncture, possibly some geometry damage in the tangle at turn 1, may well account for why it's had that big spin. Sebring 24 Hours winner, but the American F4 racer, Trailer coming into Lamborghini, heads for the pit lane, as there, the quickest man on the circuit, Loris Spinelli, trying to build this lead all the time over Nelson Piquet in second place. Up the hill he climbs, over the brow. And so there is the race leader, Loris Spinelli, 1.4 seconds to the good. Now, the plan is simple. He has got to build up as big a lead as possible for Giano Tarino, who will do the second stint. Came into Lamborghini Super Trofeo last year, drove in the Pro-Am Championship, did Giano. And it's his team, Tarano Racing by D Motorsports, operating this car. But Loris Spinelli wants to get away to try and build that gap. They, remember, are drivers within the Pro Cup, so Giano Tarino, the South African driver, will take over, and Loris Spinelli needs to give him as big an advantage as possible. Now, the incident between Spinelli and Piquet is under review. Through there goes the AM leading car of Jordan O'Brien, who will give way to businessman racer Ron Atapatu, the man behind Elephant T. If you can think back all the years to the Jerez World Final, he was greeted in a pit stop by his Elephant T, so called because the money raised from sales of that go to help elephants in his native Sri Lanka. Ron Atapatu will do the second stint in this race, the first in the second race. 147, you can see, is Sebastian Carrozzo leading his class, but he's dropped back now behind the recovering Danny Formal. So the pro champion, after his spin at the first corner, starting to get back up the order. The Costa Rican driver, Dani Formal, who's won the championship this year with Carl Marcelli, Canadian. But Carrozzo behind, still leading his class from Ashton Harrison. Closing up under braking is Luke Barkley there as well in another of the Taurino Racing entries. Luke Barkley, part of Lamborghini's Young Driver programme, came into car racing last year, fresh out of karting, was mighty impressive, and has had a good season here as well. So there he is, in pursuit now of Carrozzo, trying to work his way forward. Luke Barkley, another of those in the Pro Championship, and it's up the inside line. Is he going to be able to find a way through? Yes, he's done it. So big twitch there over the brow, but through goes Luke Barkley, gains the place away from Carrozzo. Doesn't do anything in terms of class positions, but it does overall. Brings Luke Barkley one spot up the overall order, and his next target is going to be Dani Formal. Now, while they're battling through turn 14, the leaders have just gone over the timing line, and the margin between Spinelli and Piquet is up to 1.9 seconds now. Patrick Cuellar going through in third, and there, 1, 2, 3 is Luke Barkley, heading out of turn 15, up towards the line, runs it way out wide onto the green, climbs the hill, breaks the timing beam, goes through, still being chased by Sebastian Carrozzo, but as they go through, Carrozzo starting to drop back, and now the margin between him and Ashton Harrison is going to be the interesting one. It was 13 seconds last time. They bear in mind the top two in Pro-Am. It's 12 seconds this time around, so Ashton Harrison lapping a little bit quicker. Behind her is Shehan Chandrasoma, and he, of course, is another of those in the Am fight and needing to get a wriggle on if he can to catch up to the Jordan O'Brien run out of Patu car, which may well have a different pace in the second stint. There's the leader, Loris Spinelli. Turning his way through as we look at a replay of the start. Nelson Piquet slow away, and everybody on his side of the grid slow therefore, because they got a bit stuck behind him on the run to the first corner. But Loris Spinelli, after that drama, went round the outside of Cuellar. Cuellar started to slide and then tagged Spinelli, and that meant that Piquet got through round the outside of him, tried to go Dani Formal, and then Formal hit Spinelli and knocked the pair of them around. So Dani Formal and Loris Spinelli colliding with one another. Sorry, tell you a lie, not Spinelli, it was the other Taurino car, wasn't it, of Luke Barkley. So each of them having a spin at turn one, and that's why Dani Formal dropped back, because he got embroiled in somebody else's incident. However, the net result of all of that is that Loris Spinelli is the leader by the best part of 2 seconds. Piquet runs second, Cuellar third, and then Billy Johnson hanging on in there in 4th place. But the pit window beckons, and as it opens, the order unchanged in the leading 4, but it might well be that it's a very different order come the end of the second stint. So there is Loris Spinelli dropping down towards turn 5, with Nelson Piquet behind. Last time, actually fractionally quicker Piquet as he tries to fight back against the race leader. Over the brow comes the charging Nelson Piquet then. Now as he comes up the hill, let's try and catch up with Brian Ortiz. He's busy watching Sebastian Carrozzo, his teammate, hard at work in the Pro-Am entry, and Brian Ortiz is with Mariette.
I think the events on track have put you and Sebastian in a very good position in the fight for that title.
Yeah, Sebastian did an amazing job in the start. I didn't even know what happened. I saw him, he was up front. I think we have a very good car. Points, we're coming in the backside, so we have to do everything we can. I got the point yesterday for the pole, so that helped. If we win today, that helped. We have one more later on today. If we can win that as well, then whatever happened, depending on the 146, they're doing a great job this year as well. So it's been a great battle, but we're coming here to win. It's an amazing event, amazing track, and it's a privilege to be from Puerto Rico and be driving in this amazing track.
Fantastic, good luck.
Thank you.
Now, interestingly, as Brian Ortiz talks about 146 that has done a great job this year, John Dubetz, of course, had that spin early on and he's fighting back. So they are currently only, for that car, 4th in class. We have just under 4 minutes to the pit window opening. So one or two of the teams will head in early, I would offer you, in order to put the quicker driver in, but others, like Loris Spinelli, will stay out for as long as he can to give his co-driver the best possible opportunity. It doesn't really matter for Nelson Piquet, other than you don't want to be released into traffic, so the team will try and second guess what a pit stop time he's going to do and where it might put him, but of course you don't know when others are going to stop, so the team will have to try and use its brains trust as best it can. The lead margin is 2.1 seconds. Last time around, Spinelli slightly quicker than Piquet, margin up therefore. There they are, coming over the brow, dropping down from turn 11 to 12, and then the climb round turn 13, uphill, uphill, uphill. And now the leaders are getting stuck in the traffic, so this is going to have a real impact on some of those margins. They're going through is 130. The car that Nelson Piquet drives for the Ansel Motorsports team. He's only had one win this year, surprisingly. Spinelli now rather stuck in the traffic there behind the Ophir Levy John Hirschberg car. John Hirschberg at the wheel of it. 2 Lamborghini Cup wins have gone their way this year. The US Racetronics entry, but now Spinelli goes through. Now we've got Edoardo Liberati being warned about track limits down at the first corner. Cars here, nose to tail, but whoops, Piquet getting into the back of Tagatari there, the Mazda MX-5 champion, and the Lamborghini Cup entrant then being given a tack in the tail, but that's not really helped Piquet very much, because only now is he able to go through 3 wide as he tries to get through the back markers. Piquet on the inside line does go through. Tagatari also trying to wriggle his way up through the traffic, which he has succeeded in doing, gaining a place accordingly there. But Piquet, again, more time lost, therefore, relative to Loris Spinelli. Gets on with the programme now. Comes over the brow, but the margin between Spinelli and Piquet up a little bit further. That said, we need to see the pace of Giano Tarino relative to Nelson Piquet in the second stint. So it will be Giano Tarino to take over from the leading car of Loris Spinelli. Piquet stays behind the wheel, but a slightly longer pit stop. And off the road there is Claude Senhoretti. The Lamborghini Palm Beach entry has had a drama, and for Claude Senhoretti that looks like it's race over. With his very Brazilian helmet, out he steps. But that car off the racetrack and looking as though it's a mechanical problem. He's gone for one of the access roads, so it's not on the circuit. But Claude Senhoretti out of the race. Big, big disappointment. So Claude Senhoretti, who came into Lamborghini racing after a few years of Ferrari Challenge, out of race 1. The pit window will be open in about 25 seconds time and counting, as the leaders now make the run over the brow down towards the turn 5 hairpin, and again Spinelli here in the traffic. The race leaders picking their way through. Spinelli being mindful of where the slower cars are, where the gaps are, and also mindful that in 1 or 2 cases these are gentlemen racers who might not be expecting you at quite such a dramatic closing speed. Now, we have got people coming into the pit lane. One of them is Edoardo Liberati, who comes in early to give way to Dario Capitano, the Renault Sport Trophy champion. And Capitano was impressive in Lamborghini Super Trofeo last year as well as this. So it's a combination that this year hasn't had a win, but delayed from the pit lane start. The pit stop now takes place. Piquet again stuck in traffic there as he tries to get past Jason Keats, the computer security company CEO. And now Jason, I think, will open the door and let Nelson Piquet through. Loris Spinelli on his last warning for track limit abuses, as into the pit lane there, bailing comes Nelson Piquet. So get the pit stop done, and he can concentrate on that second stint and just keep charging on. So Piquet down the pit road. This is a 97-second stop. So in other words, he will lose 3 seconds over and against the Spinelli Taurino car that leads the way. Has to come down the pit lane at the regulation speed, stops, and there's very, very little that can be done other than perhaps clean the windscreen, check the tyre pressures, adjust if needs be. But the most important job of anybody is the car controller and with his stopwatch, because when he releases the car, he's got to factor in the drive time down to the pit out line, and if that's under 97 seconds, then they're going to be in with a penalty. Spinelli, in the meantime, still presses on. He'll have got the message, I would have hoped, about the track limit warning. Comes then now downhill, got the road to himself, and it is a much drier road than it was at the start of the day. There are still 1 or 2 damp patches just offline, but it has dried out markedly. Still a bit overcast. If you look above the circuit, the sun's breaking through, but there's still some really dark, sinister clouds looking to the last corner. Nelson Piquet, though, is looking only forwards, and he's looking to get back out on track to complete the second stint with 27.5 minutes on the clock. As again, look how wide Spinelli goes. Back on track now, heads once more up towards the timing line. Another lap completed. Pit window remains open. 10 minutes the window is open for. The first race of the day was, for the European drivers, really affected by the road being wet, and wetter than people thought, and how it was drying and how treacherous it was, even to the very end. And Spinelli, absolutely remorseless in the traffic. One back marker now is Piquet. Piquet, after his pit stop, trying to fend off Spinelli, and can't do it, can he? Yes, he just about can. He's trying to get himself back up to speed. Loris Spinelli pushing. Goes down towards turn 5. Piquet doesn't want to drop off the lead lap, but he's going to have to, because Spinelli commits to the inside line and goes through. So he's overtaken him once for the lead. Now he puts a lap on Piquet and accelerates up the hill. Side by side they run. Piquet determined, if he can, to get back ahead of Spinelli, but I fear now he's going to have to just settle for the moment in being a lap behind. He'll get the lap back anyway once Loris Spinelli pits, and Spinelli carving his way past the back markers then, absolutely flat out. Spinelli has one job, and that is to go as fast for as long as he possibly can. So he needs to make sure that he is ahead of every car. Can't settle behind Piquet, knowing that that's on the same lap. He just needs to get ahead and keep pushing, try and build a gap. So Spinelli, who has mastered Super Trofeo racing, he's won championships in North America as well as Europe, pushes on in the race lead. They're the pro champions out of this year's championship. After 5 wins, Danny Formal giving way to the Canadian Kyle Marcelli now. Danny Formal, the Costa Rican, part of Lamborghini's young driver program, but that car delayed after its spin early on. Away it goes now. Kyle Marcelli at the wheel. And that's another one that's about to drop off the lead lap, I would suggest, because the race leader has gone by. So down, pit out, onto the racetrack goes Kyle Marcelli. Loris Spinelli having already gone through. Patrick Cuellar is the man in second place now. Ignore Piquet for the moment, because he needs to get that lap back. And Loris Spinelli is being given a 5-second time penalty for track limit offences. He's had his last warning. So Spinelli, a 5-second time penalty. The screen doesn't confirm whether that's going to be done in the pit stop or at the end of the race, but Loris Spinelli not only needs to build up a massive lead for his co-driver, but he's got to add another 5 seconds worth of advantage to it, because that's the penalty. So Loris Spinelli battles on. Let's catch up with Danny Formal after his spin at the very start of the race. He can reflect on that with Marietta.
Third part of the race for you. Talk us through what happened during your stint.
We had a great car. There's been a guy that's been trying to beat us all year long, decided to just straight take me out in the first corner 2 when I was respecting Nelson, Patrick, and Loris. They were in a big fight. He just came from behind, hit me as hard as he could, fell back to, I think, 15th, and made myself up to 5th. We had good pace. The car's great. It was hurt in the accident, so definitely lose some downforce in the hit. But very thankful for the team. This is a practice for us. We already locked the championship. We're trying to see how good the car is for the World Finals. Still improve it a little bit. Still missing a 10th or 2. But Wayne Taylor Racing gave me a great car all year long. We've won 5 out of the 10 races. Obviously today looks a little hard to win, but yeah, so far so good. Happy with the performance of the car. Happy with everything we've done, and yeah, excited for the World Finals.
Thank you. Good luck.
So, Danny Formal frustrated about the contact with Luke Barkley. There's another warning, and this is going the way of Alan Grossberg for the pit exit blend line. Often if you cross that, you're given a penalty, but he's been given a warning. But Spinelli's 5 seconds is again going to be effectively given now to Giano Tarino. He's going to have to cope with that in his stint. There, number 101 is Kyle Marcelli, running in 6th place for the moment. So Spinelli leads Kuila by 8 seconds. Interesting, isn't it? As we look at 103 in the pit lane there, Randy Solari. Kuila fastest in qualifying, Spinelli only 3rd, and yet Spinelli has just gone storming away. There's nothing that Kuila can do. Another one in the pit lane is Fred Roberts, the Lamborghini Cup entrant in the NTE Sport car. Door closed, and now the mechanics get ready to wave him away. So there is the penalised Spinelli, who I would suggest needs to be in this time, because I don't think he's going to be able to do this and another lap before the window closes. He might think differently, the team might think differently, but he's coming now down towards the exit of turn 15. Oh no, he might just squeeze one more lap out of it, but decides not to, bails for the pit lane. So Loris Spinelli comes in, they'll give him the message about the 5 seconds. Giano Tarino will know it as well. And so Spinelli is in, Kuila's going to have to come in, I would have thought, this time as well. So the very Italian liveried car of Loris Spinelli is about to be given away to Giano Tarino, and Tarino will have to factor in that 5-second penalty as well. Slowly, slowly, slowly down the pit road comes Spinelli. Also Patrick Kuila is in to now give way to Eduardo Piscopo, and then also coming in is Jordan O'Brien, after a great stint, to lead the AM Cup, to give way to Ron Atapatu. Out gets Spinelli. Giano Tarino, and different between some teams, exiting driver helps with the belts as well. It's a better way of acting as a team. There, interestingly, look, Patrick Kuila does not, because he lets the engineers for number 150 at US Racetronics strap in Eduardo Piscopo. But as you're strapping in the driver, it's also an opportunity to say, for example, it's slippy at turn 4, and another drama there, that 146 again. So the car of John Giubetz and Bryson Liu, now with Bryson Liu at the wheel of it, a second incident of the race. It's had one spin, and remember, that car came into this leading the Pro-Am Championship. Bryson Liu trying to turn it round, but he's put it in the gravel as he tries to get going. He will get going. Drives through the gravel and rejoins, but more time lost then, so it's not a happy race. Now, track limit penalties coming for 120, Alex Au. He has got a 5-second penalty for track limit violations, just as Loris Spinelli had. So away goes Giano Tarino, and Eduardo Piscopo is at number 150. So now it is going to be Nelson Piquet that leads the race. So Piquet takes over the lead. Billy Johnson is up into 2nd. And so the penalty served by Tarino. No, tell you a lie, he is still the race leader. The timing screen's had another think about this. So going through sector 2, Tarino still declared as the leader. There is the fight between Piquet on the outside, Piscopo on the inside, and through goes Piscopo up into 2nd place. So Eduardo Piscopo goes through, picks up the place ahead of Nelson Piquet. So in the pole position car, the former European and world final winner, Eduardo Piscopo, ex-single-seater gun, goes through, and off the road already goes Giano Tarino. It's part of the perils, this, of being thrown into the car for the 2nd stint and having to go absolutely flat out on your installation lap without making mistakes. there you can see what's going on behind, and that is that it is now Piscopo ahead of number 130 of Nelson Piquet. Right, the timing screen is slightly all over the place as far as the leaders are concerned, so at the end of the lap we'll have a better idea of who is where. On track, very definitely Piscopo is ahead of Piquet, but only just, because now up the inside goes the Brazilian. They're going to come off turn 15 absolutely side by side. Eduardo Piscopo is hung out to dry on the outside line there as Piquet comes back at him and he retakes the place. Great racing between the two of them. They're heading up now towards the timing line once more. 18.5 minutes are on the clock, and this, as they come over the line, is the fight for second place. So Taurino does lead the way, 11 seconds to the good. Second is Piquet, third is Piscopo, fourth is Billy Johnson. But Gianno Taurino doing a very, very good job on his outlap to try and build the lead. There he is, coming now down to the hairpin. He's fighting the car, as you can see, under braking, but Gianno Taurino, the South African licensed driver, climbs the hill over the brow, and what he's now going to try to do is maintain that advantage, make sure he's got more than 5 seconds in hand for the end of the race when that penalty is applied. In the classes now as well, we have in Pro-Am, Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo ahead of the car of Ashton Harrison and Tom Long, getting a replay of that mistake made on his outlap by Gianno Taurino, but he survived from all of that. Into the lead now of the Am class is Shehan Chandra Soma, ahead of number 148 of Nico Roger, and then Ronata Partu down in third in class right now, with the leading Lamborghini Cup entry being Fred Roberts. Now there is Taurino, makes his way down again towards turn 15. Keep on turning all the way through that final section of the lap. And there's going to be some traffic up the road ahead of him. Now, this will be a first flying lap out of Taurino. And as he goes through, bearing in mind the best lap is from that car, a 1:43.9, which is fair. It's not as quick, but it's not hugely slower. But how does that compare with what Piquet is doing behind? He's being caught at a second a lap, and Piscopo is slower, because I think Piscopo has been off the road. His lap was a 1:46. So unseen, looks like Piscopo may have had a moment. And now Taurino is on another final warning, just as Spinelli was, about track limits. So they've got a 5-second penalty after the race anyway. So a margin of 10 seconds is coming down. Plus the penalty is going to halve it anyway. So Taurino here has just got to be quick and smooth. Easier said than done, especially with 16 minutes of the race to go. Good as a battle lower down as Carl Marcelli there tries to get through the traffic. Marcelli, number 101, is running in 5th place for Wayne Taylor Racing. The team very successfully operated by the American-based South African. So 101, the pro champion out of the North American Series this year, Kyle Marcelli, the Carter turned single-seater racer. He raced in Formula 2000 in Star Mazda, then he went to Indy Lights and has raced in a Porsche GT3. He's run his class in GT World Challenge America and now in Lamborghini Super Trofeo as well. That car, remember, we were hearing from Danny Formal, picked up some damage early on in the race. So accelerating over the brow, clock ticking on down. We've got just 15 minutes of the race to go, and a pit stop penalty now being given to Shehan Chandra Soma of 0.477 of a second. So there in the traffic, trying to wriggle his way through, is Kyle Marcelli. And this penalty will go the way of Shehan Chandra Soma. So over the brow comes Marcelli, still trying to push his way through the traffic. You have to be able to try to do that going down towards turn 1. Now let's head to the pit lane because Ashton Harrison is fresh out of the car. Ashton is with Marietta.
First of all, I believe this is a very emotional race weekend for you.
Yeah, it is. It's I just took my final start in Super Trofeo for the North American Tour, and you know, on our outlap it was sinking in. I was telling my team, I'm like, let's go get it. This is our time. And I feel like our Harrison contracting Lamborghini is super well balanced, very fast for us.
Could you give us a sense of how track conditions feel out there? Because with this changing weather, it looks very tricky.
Yeah, it is very tricky. The first couple laps were all about survival, and we almost had the lead in Pro-Am. You know, my whole goal was to just get through the first couple corners. We did have contact on the front right from a competitor, and once we had that contact, we lost a lot of ground, and then we just couldn't make it back up in that time. So either way, our car is super fast. You know, our Harrison Contracting Lamborghini has been up front most of the weekend. So either way, I'm going to be happy with the podium, but I really want to win sometime this weekend. But we're also focusing on the world. You know, we want a world title for this last hurrah for us.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Thank you.
Good to hear as ever from Ashton Harrison, somebody that we in Europe have been used to seeing at the Lamborghini World Final over the years, and every time we've seen her, she's been faster, more competitive, and a good career in GT racing beckons. She's been racing this year in the GTD class in the IMSA series with the Acura, as well as in the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, third in Pro-Am. So very much having cut her teeth in this style of one-make GT racing, multi-mark GT racing and sports car racing in general beckons now for Ashton Harrison. So there is 125, which is second in class. It is Tom Long at the wheel of it. They've had a Pro-Am win together, the 2018 IMSA Touring Car champion, then behind the wheel. Experienced driver is Tom Long. Again, he's been racing in GTs in IMSA as well this year with a Toyota Supra, as well as with Ashton Harrison in the GTD class with the Acura. And right now he's chasing after Brian Ortiz, from whom we heard in the opening stint. Eduardo Piscopo's got a problem, because not only did he lose a place to Billy Johnson and to Nelson Piquet prior to that, but he's now lost two more, and he's tumbling down the order. And his last lap, Eduardo Piscopo, was a 2 minutes 15. So the car that started on pole position has got a problem, and something is not right, therefore. Piscopo, last lap, 2 minutes 15, and he's losing time in the sector, so I'm rather fearful that we're going to see that car heading to the pits. The next one for a track limit penalty is Damon Ockey with Patrick Liddy. Patrick Liddy at the wheel of it now, 12th on the track, but they've got a 5-second penalty for track limit offences as well. Now, Taurino has gone across the timing line. There you can see him in the race lead. And Nelson Piquet last time was 8 seconds adrift. Now it's 6 seconds, so that's really 1.6 seconds if you take the penalty 5 away. So on this lap, I suspect he's going to be ahead on corrected times, even if he hasn't done the overtaking. Billy Johnson hanging on to third place. We've got 11.5 minutes on the clock. And there going through is the race leader. So Gianno Taurino leads on the road, but he's got this Damocletian penalty. So that car, Nelson Piquet behind, is going to inherit the race lead on amended times. He may well have the pace anyway, with 11 minutes to go to catch and pass. But Piquet climbs the hill, edging ever closer. No doubt the team will have told him that the lead car has a penalty, so just get within 5 seconds and the race is yours. However, Piquet, as a proper racer, is going to want to do the job properly and catch and pass. Climbs the hill into the sunshine. You can see the little damp patches still on the road, but he avoids the tricky ones as he comes down now through turn 13. So Piquet still looking good here. There's another one with a track limit penalty, 1:27 this time. Eduardo Liberati started. Dario Capitano is now at the wheel. So it's going to take quite a long time to confirm a result with all these penalties, because you drop one car, then you drop the next. And Piquet caught up in traffic this time around, but he is inching ever closer to Taurino in the race lead. Ducks up the inside of the back marker there, comes through. So, leader has just gone through, and the next driver to earn himself a penalty is 123 Richard Antinucci. It's 5 seconds again. So all of this is for track limit violations. Richard Antinucci running in 5th place on the road, but like I say, it's going to take a bit of unravelling from Perugia timing at the end of the race. 130 goes through. That's Nelson Piquet, who has not yet actually done the catching. He's still got to get to within that magic 5 seconds. He's almost there, but because of the back markers on the last lap, it's going to take just a little bit longer. The run over the brow once again. An incident now between Eduardo Piscopo and Billy Johnson is under investigation. Well, that would account for why Piscopo junked a load of time. Now the lap times are good, but there was obviously contact that spun Piscopo down the order. So the officials are having a look at that. We've not seen any vision of it, but clearly there was an incident. I mentioned that the Piscopo car had a problem. Well, it was damage-induced, contact-induced, and a big time-consuming spin, because the lap time was about half a minute off what it should have been. So the pole position car very, very badly delayed, and Eduardo Piscopo now trying to fight back as best he can. So it is still on the track, Gianna Taurino that leads the way, but at the last timing point, the gap was down to 5.7 seconds, which means 0.7 of a second. Remember, there's a 5-second penalty to the lead car, so whatever the margin is, take 5 seconds off it, and that's the order. So 0.7 of a second, Taurino to Piquet, and the way that Nelson is going, it's going to be less than that when he breaks the beam at the end of the lap, with 8 minutes on the clock. The leader goes through. See him go past out of the window. As this, you're looking at Piquet, comes now towards the stripe, goes through, and a drive-through penalty for Billy Johnson. Incident responsibility, says the race director. So the car that is third being given a drive-through, and that's going to put Kyle Marcelli up into third place. So some consolation after the spin early on in the race for 101, the Wayne Taylor car. So Billy Johnson will now serve the drive-through. The team quickly give him the message. I can see him coming down the pit lane as you look at the race leader-elect, Nelson Piquet. He's only got to find another 0.6 of a second, and that's what he found last lap anyway. So he's almost there now for the race lead. So Kyle Marcelli takes third. Up into fourth place goes Richard Antonucci. Up into fifth place, Brian Ortiz. Bearing in mind that Antonucci's got a penalty at the end of the race anyway. And there, Billy Johnson blasts back into the race. And loses out also to Fred Roberts, who goes ahead of him on the road, but Fred's a lap down. In the AM contest, Jordan O'Brien giving way to the slower run Atapatu. That car has dropped quite a long way back, so now the leading AM is Shehan Chandra Soma. Second, it is Nico Roger, and third is Alex Au up from the pit lane. 188 turns through, and that is Gianna Taurino, who is now only 0.3 of a second on corrected times ahead of Nelson Piquet, and therefore with 6 3/4 minutes to go, he is not going to be able to hang on in there, is he? Gets himself past the Dream Racing Motorsports Alan Grossberg car, goes up towards the timing line now, goes through. So down through turn one. Race leader remains Taurino, but the margin is 4.6 seconds on the track, and therefore on corrected times it is Piquet who is ahead now. So Nelson Piquet, who led at the start, benefiting from Loris Spinelli's excesses over the curbs, over the track limits, and therefore now claims back the race lead. Up through the traffic goes the charging Piquet, makes his way through. And there, the Brazilian may be able to catch with 5 minutes still to go. He may elect just to sit tight and secure the position. As far as the championship is concerned, Taurino and Spinelli battling with Piscopo and Cuellar for second. They were 2 points apart at the start of the weekend. It was 1 point between them in favour of Taurino and Spinelli, because of course Cuellar got the pole position point, but the advantage will stretch back the way of Taurino and Spinelli due to the dramas and the delay for the spinning Piscopo after the tangle with Billy Johnson, and Johnson now is 8th after that drive-through. What's going to be really intriguing is Pro-Am, because Bryson Liu and John Dubet's now down to 4th in class, and Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo gained a point for pole, so the margin was down to 10 points, and it's going to be narrower still going into the last race. 1:47. Brian Ortiz, he is the leader of Pro-Am. Heads up towards the timing line. 4 more minutes of the race to go. It is Tom Long chasing behind him in the Wayne Taylor racing car, but I don't think he's going to be able to get close enough. Another incident under review, Billy Johnson and Fred Roberts now. So Billy Johnson has had 1 drive-through. Now there's another one involving him that he's being looked at. And often if it's a pro against an AM, the pro always comes off worse in the eyes of the stewards. They feel that it's up to the pro to avoid the incident. But Brian Ortiz continues to hustle on, looking for another class win. They've had 2 already, Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo this year. The 2 Puerto Ricans, Brian Ortiz, 2019 Mazda MX-5 champion, has raced in a variety of sports car and touring car categories, came into Super Trofeo last year, did a very, very good job, and now powers his way over the brow, looking for not only a class win here, but also the opportunity to keep alive championship hopes going into the final race. So there the climb uphill. Through the traffic goes 1:23. That is Richard Antonucci, who is 4th, but he's got a penalty hanging over him. So wherever he finishes on track may, of course, not well be the same as the final outcome. His target is Carl Marcelli in 1:48 there, heading uphill. Nico Roger, the 2018 Global Mazda MX-5 champion, racing in TCR as well as in Super Trofeo. David Starb, another Mazda ace, has been with him for 3 AM wins this year, and a 4th Beckons here for Nico Roger, because they are clear of Chandra right now on track. Now with 2 minutes to go, race leaders are going to get this lap and 1 more out of it. Out wide there goes Ranat Apatu. There's the on-track leader, but the 5 seconds are going to put him into 2nd place. So Gianno Taurino is going to take the flag first, but he ain't going to keep the win, I'm afraid to say. You can see the way that Piquet has been hustling along behind him, bringing the gap down and down and down, and now that the margin is less than 5 seconds, apply the penalty, and 1:88, Gianno Taurino will fall behind the Brazilian on the amended result. So there is Taurino, who can feel a bit frustrated at Loris Spinelli. Loris, by pushing so hard, overstepped the track limits. It's another modern-day circuit problem, isn't it? That the low, flat curbs and all the runoff invite you to push that bit harder, whereas if you've got a street circuit, there's no track limit to exceed at all. If you do, go wider in the wall. But here, you've got all that room to play with, and some people take liberties. And so now, Nelson Piquet, with less than a lap time left in the race, is going to be the winner on the corrected times, because he is within the magic 5 seconds of Gianno Taurino. These cars have their 2nd race of the weekend at 10 minutes to 4 this afternoon. After the Europeans have completed their championship, and then tomorrow the World Finals get underway with qualifying, and then the first race, the World Finals are split, not regionally, but classes. So you've got the Pro and the Pro-Ams that get a standalone brace of races, and so do the AMS and Lamborghini Cup competitors, to give them something to aim for outright. But right now, the flag is being made ready for Gianno Taurino, but for Nelson Piquet, it's going to be a race win, because the 50 minutes are now up. The checkered flag is ready, and when number 188, Gianno Taurino, emerges from the last corner, he can only hope that Piquet has a problem and therefore loses time to give him the race win. But I don't think it's going to happen. Up towards the timing line will now come number 188, the Taurino racing by D Motorsports car, which has led pretty much all the way, but isn't going to win because of the penalty that's been applied for track limit abuses. The checkered flag flies, and on track, Gianno Taurino takes the win, but with the 5-second penalty, it is Nelson Piquet who wins the penultimate race within Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. And there, number 130, Nelson Piquet got the gap down to 2 seconds at the end of the race. And so he will take the win. Coming through for third after the delay right at the very start, Kyle Marcelli, along with Danny Formal. And a good result that, given the delays and the damage that was picked up. Now here in Pro-Am, set to win, is Brian Ortiz then, who's got traffic around him, but Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo come through to take the class win. Second should go the way of Tom Long and Ashton Harrison. And then third in the class, but with a penalty, I think it's going to be okay, 108, Patrick Liddy and Damon Ockey. Then we'll get to the AMs, where we've had a change on the last lap as well, because Shehan Chandrasoma has got himself through into the lead and is therefore on for a 6th win of the season. Just got the last of the pro cars going through, including the penalised Dario Capitano. Then Patrick Liddy should go through. He does for third in Pro-Am. There's the race winner, Nelson Piquet. But keeping an eye to the outcome in AM, and Nico Roger does come through to take the win. So again, the timing screen was having a bit of a gremlin on the last lap, but it's now saying that it's a win for Nico Roger and David Starb from Shehan Chandrasoma, and it'll be Alex Au third over the line, but he's got another one with a penalty, so that's got to be factored in as well. Now, Chandrasoma had a 4/10 of a second penalty, but the gap between those two shown as being a 7-second margin between Roger and Chandrasoma. Alex Au credited with third in class, and then in Lamborghini Cup, Fred Roberts, the winner, from Jason Keats, Charlie Martin's entry, and Afir Levy and John Hirschberg finishing in third place. But there is the man of the day, so far at least in the North American Championship, Nelson Piquet, a second victory for him. See the cars going wide there to get some pickup to help with the weight, the ride height of the cars, and then down the pit road they come. So the drivers will shortly make their way up to the podium, but we'll have a chance, no doubt, to hear from Nelson Piquet first of all, win number 2 of the season. Second place going to Gianna Taurino and Loris Spinelli, who will have a little bit of a case to answer for track limits. And then third to the pro champions, Kyle Marcelli and Danny Formal, taking third place. Now it's Nelson Piquet in the familiar Piquet crash helmet livery that his father carried for so long as he raced in single-seaters in the UK and then into Formula One, winning world championships for Brabham and for Williams. And Nelson, one of Nelson Senior's many children, very rapid racer himself in the background. Chris Ward, the motorsport manager of Lamborghini North America, strides over to say well done. Very, very good drive by Nelson Piquet. And respecting track limits, key to all of that. So Nelson has been around the block a few times, knows exactly what to do and how to keep out of trouble, and the outcome is a good one. Frustration, though, for Gianna Taurino. Kyle Marcelli, Danny Formal taking third place, this year's champions in the prestige colours, and they're a very happy Ansa Motorsports team with Nelson Piquet as a race winner. And Marietta is trying to join in the celebrations, I think, because a very happy Nelson is there. Our race winner, Marietta, he's all yours.
Nelson, a lot of things happened during the fight for the victory in this race. In the end, it was you who took it home. How are you feeling right now?
I'm happy. Obviously, it's just the beginning. We still have 3 races to go this weekend. It's going to be a long weekend. But thank you, everybody, for ANSA. Car was great. I still think we can improve a little bit. But we did a good, clean race. Spinelli and Taurino, they're very, very quick, obviously, but they were abusing a little bit of the track limits. I could see it, so I took it easy, and yeah, the race came back to us. So yeah, thanks everybody from Lamborghini, and 3 to go.
Fantastic, good luck.
Thank you.
The 3 being one last championship race and the 2 world final stanzas, but that's going to be really interesting when he's pitted against the best of the Europeans as well. So that's tomorrow and Sunday. Great racing to look forward to. Fred Roberts, who's taken Lamborghini Cup honours, first win of the year, incidentally, so that's a really good result for Fred. And Marietta is busily making her way through Parc Fermé and has got as far, I think, as Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo, who are the winners in Pro-Am.
Winners in Pro-Am, and guys, you just, oops, yeah, a lot of people want to congratulate them. I understand why, because you just took another step closer to that title.
Yeah, definitely. Like we talked before, we came behind on points, so everything we could do, it just finish first, and the rest we have no control. So the only thing we do have control is to win the races, and that's the first one. So we won it. I'm very happy. Sebas did an amazing job in the start, put us in the right position to be able to finish strong.
And Sebas, what was going through your mind during your stint?
Not much. It was just keep it clean. It's a pretty long race, so it was just get a clean start. It's avoid traffic, avoid collision on the first lap, and then build a gap so Brian could have an easy job towards the end of the stint. Now it's concentrating on tomorrow and doing the same job tomorrow.
Fantastic. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
And this afternoon, because they've got the championship showdown later on. So Sebastian Carrozzo, the driver that did the first stint, Brian Ortiz, brings it home. So, a win for Nelson Piquet from Loris Spinelli and Gian Altairino, with Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal third. Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo fourth, from Luke Barkley and Richard Antonucci, with a delayed Eduardo Piscopo and Patrick Cuyler sixth. Ashton Harrison and Tom Long seventh, second in Pro-Am from Billy Johnson after his drive-through. Eduardo Liberati and Dario Capitanio ninth, and Patrick Liddy and Damon Ockey in 10th. 11th, the winners of Am, David Starb and Nico Roger. And in 17th, the Canadian Fred Roberts, a maiden win this season in Lamborghini Cup. He'll be a very happy man indeed. We lost Claude Sanhoretti, we lost Aidan Yoder, and Michael Manella, sadly never getting into the race. So, one more race for the North American teams to come later on. And now the cars in the technical area, the drivers making their way up to the podium. And for the North American teams, much travel this year to come to Portimao, but this annual end of season trip to Europe, which is always very popular with the drivers and families. So it is going to be the Pro-Am, I'm just thinking about here, Bryson Liu, John Dubetz versus Brian Ortiz, Sebastian Carrozzo for the championship. So going into the race with 8 points having been given now to Bryson Liu and John Dubetz, that gives them 132. Brian Ortiz got a point for pole for them, so 114, then 15 for the win, means 129, so it's only 3 points between them going into the race. I've not yet got to factoring in points for pole position. Let's see if I can do that before the first crop of drivers make their way up onto the podium. No, that's not yet been published, the grid for race 2. So the trophies are there. How do we stand after race 1 in the Am contest? That is a slightly increased advantage now for David Starb and Nico Roger. So with Shehan Chandrasama finishing second, that margin extends a little bit between them. But as we've seen, anything can happen over the course of a 50-minute race. So we'll look forward to seeing the outcome of the Am fight as well when we get to that race later on in the day. So drivers being brought to the podium. The other contest, of course, is the Lamborghini Cup, and that was being led by Slade Stewart from John Hirschberg and Afia Levy. And so with neither of them having the best of results, then that's going to be shuffled again going into the last race.
Sorry, man. Shit. Was the fourth we get a quote?
Smiles all round. The drivers that are set for the podium. Loris Spinelli and Gianna Tarino then in the end second, but the winning car from the Anza Motorsports team of Nelson Piquet, who's, as I say, been driving in assorted different categories since his Formula One career came to an end. A1 GP race winner, Formula E champion, rallycrosser, GT racer, sports cars in the WEC for Rebellion.
For fifth. And then they're like, hey, the car in front's for position. I'm like, oh, how much time's left? And I just, you know, sent it. I'm like, this guy's going down. That was good.
Now, it should be the Lamborghini Cup podium that we start with. So the drivers being made ready for that. Patrick Liddy, you can see nearest to the camera. But the drivers, of course, learning about the circuit, and it's a road that has dried over the course of the weekend. Nelson Piquet in the background, ready to be called forward. So the North America Championship officials making sure they've got everybody before the podium ceremony starts. But we're not quite there yet, I don't think. Of course, the European teams already thinking about their final race of the day and of the season. Ashton Harrison there, taken second in Pro-Am.
It's great on my dream car.
And Loris Spinelli's car, having led so many laps, ultimately only taking second place, a legacy of the track limit penalty. There is Loris.
How many you count for me? I know I had 3.
You were one warning off getting another 5 seconds.
I know.
No, it's your fault.
No, it's your
Loris Spinelli trying to claim it's his co-driver's fault that they got the penalty, but as you've just heard Chris Ward explain, Gianna Tarino was only one warning away from him getting a penalty as well, so they live to fight on later on in the day. So I think now we are just about set. Lamborghini Cup drivers for the podium first. Fist bumps all round. The beauty, of course, of Lamborghini Super Trofeo is that everybody has the same base car and identical machinery. I'm sure it's the best drivers and teams that come out on top. Right, so drivers are now being called forward. We do the Lamborghini Cup first for the American podium, and so that means that Afia Levy and John Hirschberg are up first. There, Charlie Martin and Jason Keats fall second in class. And there is Fred Roberts, who takes a maiden victory this year and heads on to the top step of the podium, makes that long trip to Portimao worthwhile. And Maurizio Reggiani will step forward to hand over the trophies there to Afia Levy and John Hirschberg, then to Charlie Martin, and to co-driver Jason Keats, and then to Fred Roberts, who is a very, very happy man, understandably so. And they will be for the M1 Racing NTE Sport team. And for Fred Roberts, of course, in a moment, the national anthem. Pirelli and the trophy too as well. Everybody gets together. All smiles. And Fred Roberts, trophies in the air, delighted with the results in race 1. Can he do a double? Let's find out, because of course he'll be back on track later on in the afternoon. Fred Roberts and the Canadian ahead of the American-British partnership of Jason Keats and Charlie Martin, with the Americans Afir Levy and John Hirschberg taking third. Teams and families look on from the pit lane as the Lamborghini Cup drivers make their way off the podium. And of course, one more race beckons for them at the end of the afternoon. Fred Roberts it is that takes the class win. And going into that last race, Slade Stewart provisionally on 108 points to the 105 of Charlie Martin and Jason Keats, and the 104 of John Hirschberg and Afir Levy. One or two of the teams absent from this final event of the season, but the three-way championship battle in Lamborghini Cup continues. Now then for the AMs, where in a moment the winning drivers again will be brought forward. And for third in the class is Alex Au. For second, there is the American driver Shehan Chandra Soma. And then for the top step, it will be Nico Roger and David Starr. Very, very happy partnership taking the win. And for them, that is now a fourth win of the season. Marketing director of Lamborghini, Christian Mastro, is there to present the trophies. And there, Nico Roger collects his winning trophy, and Pirelli will hand over the trophy too. So congratulations. As the championship fight intensifies then to the Precision Performance Motorsports drivers Nico Roger and David Starr. Alex Au, the Hong Kong driver, who's been unable to do very much racing on home turf because of all the travel dramas, so has decided to come outside the area to race over the last couple of seasons. And very experienced, whether it's been in Ferraris, in Porsches, in Audis, now Lamborghinis. Alex Au taking third place. Shehan Chandra Soma nearest the camera there, another of the drivers on Lamborghini's Young Driver program. 5 times an AM winner this year, the man from Austin, Texas, and he started this season when he's not busy racing cars, a very proficient cellist and pianist as well. So, in the battle now for championship honours, it's 133 points provisionally to Nico Roger and David Starr, and 125 to Shehan Chandra Soma. So the margin increases between them, but with 16 points available, 1 for pole and 15 for a win, it could all yet change. So now we move to Pro-Am, where Patrick Liddy and Damon Ockey are brought to the podium first.
Em segundo lugar, número 125, John Long and Aston Harris.
Two drivers for the US Racetronics team, joined now by Ashton Harrison and Tom Long for Wade Taylor Racing. And then the top step of the podium will go the way of Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozza, who take, therefore, a third Pro-Am win of the season.
Entrega o troféu agora para o terceiro lugar, Christian Mastro.
So, smiling faces all round as the trophy now comes from Christian Mastro. And there, Ashton Harrison in her farewell Super Trofeo weekend, trying to go out on a high. But the class winners, Sebastian Carrozza and Brian Ortiz, now on 3 Pro-Am wins. And the trophy is now presented. The drivers huddle together on the podium for the group photographs. And for Brian Ortiz, like quite a few drivers that we've come across in American sports car racing, cut his teeth in the hugely popular Mazda MX-5 movement. And the 2 Puerto Rican drivers then, with Sebastian Carrozza having had a good pedigree in Porsche before he came into Lamborghini Super Trofeo, they take honours then in the penultimate race of the season. So that takes us to the Pro category podium. As far as Pro-Am is concerned, Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozza now just 3 points back from John Hubetts and Bryson Liu. That graphic, I'm not entirely convinced, is correct for John Hubetts and Bryson Liu. They've been given an extra point somewhere along the line, but we'll double check going into the final race of the year. And so, one more podium to go, and it is for the class that's already, of course, been decided in the championship. Third place drivers, the champions, Danny Formal, Carl Marcelli already there. Loris Spinelli and Gianna Tarino are there for second place, and a second win of the year to Nelson Piquet, who steps onto the podium with the Brazilian flag to celebrate honours in the penultimate round of Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America for the ANSA Motorsports team. It's a win for Nelsinho. The trophies go then to the champions for third place, first of all, to Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal, then to Gianna Tarino and to Loris Spinelli. Maurizio Reggiani then congratulates Nelson Piquet after a great drive, who takes the winner's trophy, and Nelson Piquet victorious here at Portimao. The Pirelli trophy goes to Nelson as well. Then everybody ushered together for photos for Lamborghini Europe purposes, for North American purposes, for social media purposes, you name it. So well done to Nelson Piquet, and let's hope that Loris Spinelli and Gianna Tarino can keep away from the track limit dramas going into race 2, and we can have an even more competitive fight. Loris Spinelli then, having already done 2 races this morning, feels it's time for a bit of celebration, and he's ready with the champagne. So Nelson Piquet is the race winner, and a great drive by the Brazilian then to keep out of trouble, to let the race come back to him, and to be there when it mattered in order to score the points for the win, and to be within the 5 seconds of the on-the-road winning car, and therefore take the race victory. More to come from Super Trofeo North America later on in the day. They've got their final race of the season coming up a little bit later on. The Europeans will finish their season before that. But for now, it is Nelson Piquet, the race winner. We'll leave you with some of the best bits of race 1 and look forward to your company later in the day. Bye for now.